Have you had a virus before? Or have you been hacked? Do you not know how to protect yourself on the internet? Today, I'm going to talk about some surefire ways to keep you safe online. Stay tuned. If you use a Windows computer and you haven't already had to deal with a virus, someday you will. It's not a matter of if, but when. Everyone, even myself, has had to deal with viruses and other security issues. A common question that I get asked is, how do I protect myself? Unfortunately, this isn't a simple question to answer. Yes, you should have an antivirus, but you should also follow some best practices along with some common sense. Today, I'm going to go over 6 of the most important practices that'll keep you safe on the internet. Stay tuned to the end of the video, and I have a couple bonus tips for you. On January 14th, 2020, Windows 7, the most popular version of Windows in history, lost support. Many people had updated their computer long before this date. Either they bought a new computer that came with Windows 10, or they updated their Windows 7 computer to Windows 10 back when the update was free. Some people didn't even know their computer was updated. That's a controversy for a whole other video. Even though we had years to prepare for this date, a large percentage of Windows users are still using Windows 7 today. Some people are doing this out of fear that Windows 10 is buggy. Considering the fiasco that was Windows 8, I don't entirely blame them. Others simply don't know any better. When an operating system like Windows 7 loses support, it no longer receives security updates. So when vulnerabilities are discovered within the operating system, those vulnerabilities are never fixed. This leaves your computer vulnerable to attacks. Not only that, but most security software no longer supports your operating system either. Even the browser that you use to surf the internet loses support. It makes it almost impossible to protect your computer. It's like driving 150 miles an hour without a seatbelt in heavy traffic. It's just not safe. If you're currently using an activated copy of Windows 7, you can still update to Windows 10 for free. Even though Microsoft doesn't offer it for free anymore, as of the filming of this video, every computer that I have updated activates without having to buy a new license. While it's outside of the scope of this video, I may make a video in the future showing how to update to Windows 10. Leave a message in the comments if that would be helpful. The next tip should be an obvious one. It is absolutely critical that you keep your operating system up to date. While Windows 10 takes care of this automatically, for some reason, some people like to disable this feature. Hey, I get it. Windows Update always wants to run at the most inopportune times. However, with each revision of Windows 10, this issue has gotten much better. The whole reason that it is so critical that you use an operating system that is in support is so you can continue to receive security updates. If you're using a current operating system, but you're not keeping that operating system updated, then it's just as bad as using an operating system that's out of support. As vulnerabilities are discovered within Windows, updates are created to patch those vulnerabilities. Don't even get me started on how bad Microsoft is at getting updates out in a timely manner. So by the time that security update is available, you really need it. It may also be that Windows is having a problem updating your computer and current updates actually aren't installing. It's always a good idea to check to make sure. Click on your Start menu and hit the little gear icon right above the Start button. Then click on Update and Security. Finally, click on the Check for Updates button. If this runs with no errors, then you should be fine. If you do get an error, it's important that this problem gets solved, because as long as your computer is not being updated regularly, you're not secure. I may make a video in the future showing some tips on how you can fix Windows Update when problems arise. If you're using a current operating system and that operating system is fully updated, the next step in protecting your computer is your antivirus. When it comes to this subject, you can ask 10 different computer techs and they're going to give you 10 different answers. All I can do is tell you what I recommend. When I first opened my business, I wanted to find an antivirus that I could sell as a product. All the mainstream antiviruses do about the same job of protecting your computer. Some of them have more features than others, but their core job most of the time performs the same. That's keeping your computer safe from viruses or other malware. So my goal was to find the antivirus that was the most efficient at doing that job. I wanted an antivirus that took the least amount of resources from the computer while keeping the computer secure. Unfortunately, the one I landed on was the one that didn't cost anything. That meant I couldn't sell it. But that's the one I've been recommending ever since. At the time, it was called Microsoft Security Essentials, and today it's an integrated part of Windows called Windows Defender, or just Microsoft Security. There's a few reasons why I recommend just using the default antivirus that comes with Windows 10. The first one is that it keeps itself updated through Windows Update. So you never have to worry about your antivirus being up to date, because if your computer is up to date, then your antivirus is up to date. The second one is just the problem I have with retail antiviruses in general. When your license runs out, your antivirus stops updating and it leaves your computer vulnerable. Ultimately, regardless of which antivirus you're using, what's important is that you're using one. As long as you're using one of the mainstream antiviruses and you keep that antivirus updated and turned on, then you should be okay. The thing you have to remember about antivirus, though, is they don't make your computer virus proof. At best, they make your computer virus resistant. Antiviruses depend on digital signatures in order to operate. Every file on your computer has a digital signature. This is like a fingerprint for each file. When a virus is discovered, the company who makes the antivirus has to analyze that virus to make sure that it is in fact malware. Unfortunately, competing software companies have been known to submit their competitors' products to antivirus companies in hopes to get that product flagged as a virus. There was a particularly embarrassing situation between Microsoft and Google a few years back when Windows Defender was recognizing the Chrome browser as a virus. So it's really important for antivirus companies to analyze their submissions, and because of this, it can take some time for that digital signature to get downloaded to your computer. In this time, your computer could be susceptible to that virus. In fact, all a virus maker has to do is to change a small part of that virus and the whole process has to start over. Unfortunately, these viruses are the ones you're most likely to come in contact with on the internet. So I usually like to say that an antivirus is good for about 90%, and the rest takes diligence from the computer user themselves. Now that we've looked at the software that it takes to keep your computer secure, we need to look at the human element. The person behind the keyboard plays just as big of a role in keeping your computer secure as the software you have installed. This is the very part where many people fall short. Let's look at an example. The phone rings. It's a guy who claims to be from Microsoft support. He says that they have detected your computer is infected, and unless it's taken care of, they're going to disconnect you from the internet. They insist that you must give them remote access to your computer. What do? Surely you don't want to be disconnected from the internet. Should you give them access to your computer? No! In this case, the proper action is to simply hang up. Many of you may have already experienced this before. This is a common scam. I have helped many people who have fallen victim to this. It may sound ridiculous that anyone would fall for a scam like this, but even the best of people have fallen for it. I have even fallen for a similar scam related to my power company. Luckily, I realized what was going on long before it cost me anything other than my time. However, I have had customers who have lost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to scams just like this. What's worse is after you let someone onto your computer, you have no idea what they've done to it or what they've put on it. Microsoft, Google, Apple, and every other company in this category, and many other categories, are not going to call you. Shoot, I have a hard time trying to get a hold of Microsoft legitimately. There's no way they're going to call you. If you have any question in your mind that the person on the phone that you're talking to might be a scammer, then simply tell them that you will call them back and go find the phone number to that company on your own and call them directly. If they argue with you for making this request, there is absolutely no doubt they are a scammer. Just hang up. There's a couple other variations in this scam. You may be surfing the internet and then all of a sudden a pop-up comes up that looks like a warning window telling you that you're infected and that you have to call this number. Sometimes these pop-up windows look like popular antivirus programs to try to give themselves legitimacy. However, if you call the number, you're just going to get a hold of the same type of scammer that we just spoke about. No antivirus company will ever ask you to call them. Typically, if you just close these pop-up windows, they're completely benign and won't hurt your computer. However, under no circumstance should you give a person that you don't know remote access to your computer. If you call that number and you give someone access to your computer, then there's no telling what they can do to it. I've had these scammers completely wipe people's computers before. These guys are criminals, and they are not above doing criminal things. The last variation to this is one that I actually haven't seen in quite some time. This is the fake antivirus. You typically run into this when you download a free program from the internet, and that program comes bundled with something that claims to be a security program. Unfortunately, this program is typically nothing more than a movie claiming that your computer is heavily infected and that you have to purchase the full version of this program in order to fix it. Years ago, I was up late working on a new computer for a customer. A commercial came on TV for one of these programs that promised to clean your computer up. It looked extremely shifty, but I decided to do a test. I went ahead and downloaded the program, and I installed the program on the brand new computer that I had just loaded Windows on. Literally, no software had been loaded on this computer except for Windows. On the floor of my shop, I had a massively infected computer that I had just brought in for recycling. This computer had more pop-ups and toolbars than I could count. So I installed this program on that computer too. Once the scan was complete, can you believe both computers were infected with exactly the same viruses? And it would only cost me $49.99 to upgrade to the full version so I could clean both computers. Separately, of course. Clearly, the program was a scam. It was doing nothing but playing a movie. Neither computer was infected with what the program claimed it was infected with. Well, one of them might have been, but the program clearly was just trying to use scare tactics to get me to spend $49.99 on a program that literally did nothing. The next security issue that we need to worry about is phishing. No, not that kind of phishing, but at the same time, yeah, kind of. Phishing is when an attacker puts bait out in hopes to lure in unsuspecting victims. Phishing comes in all forms. Some of it is blatantly obvious, and some of it not so much. This kind of attack could happen as something as simple as an official-looking email coming from your bank. You click on the link and you go to a page that looks just like your bank's page. So you proceed to enter your login information, and just like that, it's too late. What the attacker just did is sent out a mass email to hundreds of thousands of people in hopes that some of those people bank with a specific bank. You just happened to bank with that bank. Then the attacker created a website that looked exactly like your bank's website. When you followed the link, the URL in the email may have even looked correct. Unfortunately, it sent you to a fake version of the bank's website where the attacker has just stolen your username and password. These types of attacks are far more common than you might think, and they don't always target your bank account. The attacker could be posing as anyone, and their objective could be anything. Maybe you get an email from your best friend, and he tells you to try out this really cool program that he just found. Unfortunately, the email wasn't from your best friend because his email was just hacked, and the attacker stole his contact list. This attacker has just sent everyone in his contact list the same email that you just received, and that program is actually a fake antivirus like we spoke about before, or maybe even worse. This one is a difficult one to protect yourself from, but with some common sense, these attacks oftentimes can be easy to spot. There's a few tips that you can follow to protect yourself from these. If your bank, email provider, social network, or any other service that you use sends you an email, just don't follow the hyperlink in the email. Open your browser, enter the address to the site there. That way, you know you're going to the legitimate site. If you get an email from your best friend telling you to try this piece of software or go to some random site, think to yourself whether or not this friend would even do that. Is this friend known for sending you links to stuff? If you want to be sure, it's from your friend, right? Pick up the phone, give him a call. If you don't have their number, are you really good enough friends to care what website he wants you to go to? Another variant of this attack happens on social media all the time. A good friend of yours, or maybe even your mother, out of nowhere sends you a friend request. If they're already your friend, Why would they be sending you a friend request? The answer is because it's actually not them sending it. It's real common on social media for attackers to impersonate people and send friend requests to everybody on their friends list. When this happens, it's almost guaranteed that it's just a fake account. What I would do is verify that you are still friends with that specific person and then report the account as a fake account. The final tip to keep your computer secure is also the hardest to protect yourself from. This one is called the man-in-the-middle attack. This vulnerability is usually exploited on public Wi-Fi. The idea behind this one is the attacker will pretend to be the public Wi-Fi and will steal data from people who are connected to it. Let me give you an example of how this might work. Then I'll give you a real-world example of this in action. Let's say that you go to Starbucks, and while you're sitting there enjoying your coffee, you pull your notebook out and decide to check your bank account. You log on and check your balance, then finish your coffee, and you're on your way. Unfortunately, you weren't actually connected to Starbucks Wi-Fi while you were doing it. You didn't notice the van parked out front with the high-powered Wi-Fi equipment inside of it, pretending to be Starbucks Wi-Fi. And because of this, the attacker has just stolen the login credentials for your bank account. Several years ago, in an experiment to see how easy these attacks could be performed, I set up a man-in-the-middle attack on my own network. Unfortunately, my wife was my victim. What I was able to do was flood the Wi-Fi network with irrelevant data, causing the computers attached to it to disconnect. These computers automatically tried to reconnect to the network. However, when they did, they're going to look for the strongest access point to connect to. That happened to be the access point that I set up. Once I had my victim connected, I played all kinds of pranks. I flipped all the pictures on Facebook upside down, and at one point I was actually redirecting all requests from Facebook to MySpace. It was harmless fun, but this attack can be used to cause a lot of damage. An attacker can use this attack to intercept any information that you're sending or receiving across the internet. This can include your secured logins. There are even ways to spoof the security key for secured websites. The attacker can even redirect your requests to different web pages, just like my example of directing my wife's Facebook requests to MySpace. The attacker could forward the request for your bank to a website that he has set up to steal your login credentials. Unfortunately, there's no surefire way to protect yourself from this kind of attack other than not using public networks. This is one of the primary reasons why I personally do not use public Wi-Fi. I use the data on my phone and just tether whatever device I want to use to my phone. If you're in a situation where you have no other choice than to use public Wi-Fi, just make sure that you don't use it to log into any accounts that you may have. Definitely don't log into your bank account, but I also wouldn't recommend logging into your email or social networking accounts either. Everyone gets infected or suffers from a security issue at some point in their life. Like I said at the beginning, it's not if, but when you're going to have a security problem. However, just because it's an inevitability doesn't mean that you shouldn't take security seriously. There's many people that I've been helping for many years with their computer problems, and some of them rarely run into a security issue. And there's others who I'm helping once a month clean a virus off their computer. If you take the tips that I've given you in this video seriously and practice them on a regular basis, your odds of running into problems decrease exponentially. With the right software and some common sense, you can enjoy the internet without the worry of being taken advantage of. Now, for those bonus tips I promised you. Sometimes the issue that threatens your computer does not come from an outside source. Computer hardware fails, and when this happens, it could put all your data at risk. That's why it's critical that part of your security plan is to have a backup. I've helped too many people that keep putting off backing up their computer until it was too late. There are several issues that could lead to a backup being imperative. Your hard drive could fail, or you can be infected with a form of malware called ransomware. A hard drive failure can cost thousands of dollars to recover, and ransomware viruses may be unrecoverable. However, if you do a regular backup, it's extremely easy to recover from either of these events. At absolute minimum, I would recommend just getting an external drive that's equal or bigger than the hard drive inside your computer, and using Windows file history to do daily backups on your computer. That small investment can save you an amazing amount of time and money in the future. The final bonus tip is secure your wireless router. It doesn't take much to put a password on your wireless, and it has so much benefit that it's not worth not doing. A few reasons why this is important would be to protect your internet from random strangers using it. Were you aware that if someone breaks the law over your internet connection, you're held responsible? Let's say the neighbor kid uses file sharing to download a bunch of movies over your internet connection. These companies have been known in the past to sue for copyright infringement. If that happens, they're not coming after the kid next door, but they're coming after you. Another issue that you could run into is what we mentioned above. It's possible to do a man-in-the-middle attack on your own Wi-Fi connection. If your connection is unsecured, it's extremely easy for someone to pull off one of these attacks. I recommend using WPA2. All modern routers support this encryption method. I recommend against using the older encryption methods because many of them have already been exploited. As an example, I have been able to hack a WEP pin in less than 30 seconds from a low-powered Atom notebook that I keep in my tech bag. If these tips were helpful to you, then please like this video and please subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of future videos. I release a new video every week. Have a great day.